27.
26.
25 seconds.
24. 23.
22 seconds.
21 seconds.
20 seconds. 19.
18.
17 seconds.
16.
15 seconds.
14.
13 seconds.
12.
11.
10 seconds.
9.
8. 7. 6. Copy.
5 seconds.
3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to Subspace Chatter, the podcast where we boldly discuss the final frontier. Today we'll be discussing the Corbomite Maneuver, an episode of Star Trek The Original Series, first released on 10th November 1966. Joining me today is Philip and Felushai. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Would you like to introduce yourselves first?
Philip, you want to go first? Okay, we'll go first. We're Philosophy. We've got a whole bunch of different YouTube channels. We do history stuff. We write articles, and we've been a huge fan of Star Trek since we were just a little kid.
Cool.
Oh.
Philip, are we getting audio from you? I'm not sure.
He's muted right now. Okay.
Sorry about that. Didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. I'm Philip Leavenworth. I'm a writer and film and television producer here in Los Angeles. I'm doing my best to connect with the fan base after years of kind of being on the outside of it. And I even have a YouTube channel called Fleet Admiral Levi, which you can check out whenever you'd like. I'm really looking forward to doing more of these reviews of the original series and other series of Star Trek.
Cool. As I said, thank you very much both for coming on.
Of course.
Yeah.
What are your general thoughts about the Corbomite Maneuver? Do you want to go first, Philip?
For me, it's kind of a maybe sort of a special episode in that there was a film teacher of mine who, brought it up to me once in a conversation. He was kind of shocked that I knew what it was, and that was sort of a connection. But overall, it's a great episode in the sense that it kind of plays on the expectations of, we think that, beings are going to be a certain way, and then when we actually meet them and we're able to kind of get past some of those layers of subterfuge, we can get to some unexpected places. And I think on that part, it's an interesting dynamic. But also, it's also the first episode I think we see Ron Howard's brother Clint in the franchise, and I think that's pretty interesting.
Cool. Philosophy. Sorry.
No problem. So first we want to preface it. We haven't watched any original series in 26 years, or no, 28 years, we suppose at this point. We haven't seen the last episode we watched. We were 6 years old, so we're 34 now. So all of the original series is very not fresh in our mind. And when we heard the episode, we were like, okay, we're just going to go watch it right now. We got time right before the podcast. And we went on, and we were amazed at both how very, very not like and how very alike to the modern series it is. So we were talking earlier, Captain Kirk at one point introduces the ship as the Starship Enterprise of United Earth. And we're like, wait, all right, this is the first season of the original thing. That stuff hadn't been hardened into place yet. At the same time, Kirk is a very stoic, shoot last, ask questions first guy, and we think it really epitomizes what a lot of people think about Starfleet and Star Trek today. You can very clearly see the roots. So we think it's great to come back to, because it very much plays on all the things that we've come to expect from Star Trek. Yeah.
Cool. Do you have a favorite scene or line of dialogue from this episode?
I mean, for me, it's always the part where he introduces the little drink, Tranya, and so I think that's memorable to me. But yeah,
We think our favorite one was where Bailey, the one-time guy or whatever, navigator, accidentally yells at Spock early in the episode, and Spock says there's no need to yell. Later, he defends himself by saying, I've just got this thing called an adrenal gland that makes me a little louder when I'm a bit excited. So Spock says to him, plain-faced, that sounds very inconvenient. Have you considered getting it removed? And then just walks away.
That's really, really good. I think my favorite is fascinating because of like the legacy that it's had, and I think it like really was important to the development of Spock. Personally, but I really like both parts that you chose. You guys chose. Who is your favorite character in this episode and why?
I think it's more of a tough one for me. I don't know if I have a favorite character. I mean, other than I don't know what you want to call it, his the alien version of himself that isn't Balok's
The puppet
subterfuge.
thing.
Yeah, I don't know, that creature has always been kind of the look anyway has been kind of iconic to me because I think they used to be in the end credits, and that's kind of always been like if you're watching seasons from now and you'll see that image and how sort of iconic I think it is in its own right. But yeah, imagery wise, that's what I go with.
We gotta say we think our favorite person in this episode was Bones, because McCoy is just very much at his McCoyanist in this. Right from the very beginning, he sees that there's an alert, and he just decides, to keep putting Kirk through the ringer. Kirk notices there's an alert later. He just kind of waves it off.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about the costumes in this episode?
No, I think I mean, aside from the fact that it's all the classic uniforms that we have seen, that become iconic. I can't think of anything too specific.
No, we're the same too. This one seemed pretty. The costuming wasn't super elaborate or anything in this one.
I think this is one of the two that appears in a gold colored Starfleet uniform before she appears in the red. Personally, I've always preferred her look in that colored uniform. There's also, I always thought like the colors look a bit like they're really rudimentary, sort of, and that they haven't really been designed like how they eventually will be. Like you can still see some of the zips and stuff like that. But I think from what I recall, like this was the first where they did introduce red in the Starfleet uniforms. So I thought that was cool. And I guess Balok is the only other, the boyhood Balok is the only other guest star who appears in a uniform or in clothing, I guess, outside the Starfleet uniforms. So, how effective do you think the episode's visuals in general are?
I think the visuals are pretty effective. but I'm one of those people who kind of prefers the unremastered versions of the original series. I know there's a bunch of people who prefer the remasters, but if we go back to how it was in the past, it was sort of this like thing, and now it's a little more spruced up. But it's an interesting kind of spacecraft for Baylock to fly in, and or at least what we think of. And I think from a design point, it is, I think, one of the first times we see something that is, I want to say, a little more out of the box than some of the other designs we had, because I think it has a little lights on the side. It's just a constant little. Kind of reminds me of the little, I don't know what you want to call it, but like when Q shows up, there's like these like red and blue um, like barrier things around it.
The net, yeah, the net.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what I get from it in a way, but not really. But kind of my thing.
Yeah, we definitely had a similar reaction to that. We're like, well, this looks terribly like a proto Q type scenario, like a Farpoint Station type scenario. We really liked the ships and the cube and stuff like that at the very beginning, because this was like way back in the day. So we like how it's innovative. It used the things that they had at their disposal without pushing the limit too terribly far. Somebody wants to roll around with a weird cube ship that shoots radiation in space. I mean, this is way back in the day. That's fine. Like, let's do that. And then we really like the big ship with the nodules all over it and everything, because we loved playing a game called Tyrion back in 1995, and a very similar aesthetic to some of the bio ships that you would see in that. And so we think if anything that this episode probably in some way inspired that kind of look in the future, or could have, maybe spitballing here.
So we have another co-host joining. Thank you for joining the stream, Mac. Do you have memories of the Corbomite Maneuver?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I loved it. It's been a while since I've seen it, though. But then I've probably seen it so many times I can almost memorize it. But I kind of like how he decided to really test the Enterprise on, could he really trust them?
Mm-hmm.
After all, how many times have the great powers planted fake information out there, But, and I like the fact of, God, I can't remember his name, the navigator or helmsman, how he started panicking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And McCoy is probably right saying he promoted him way too soon.
Mm.
I wonder if any of the novels actually follow him after the TV show.
Yeah, I think there's at least one that talks about like the First Federation and stuff, and talks about Bailey. What happens to Bailey after the events of this episode?
Yeah, well, there had to be something after all. How many Star Trek books are there?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I was really glad to find was the ones with Gary Seven. It's like it was kind of nice to follow him up because, as we all know, that was supposed to be a spin-off.
Yeah. So if you could make any one change to this episode, the Corbomite Maneuver, what would it be and why? Do you want to start, Philip?
If I can make one change, I'm not exactly. I don't know. I feel like it would be like if I changed anything from this episode, it'd be like trying to edit part of the Bible, and I feel like a bunch of people get angry at me. But no, I don't think I would change. I don't think I'd change anything.
Yeah, I don't think there's much you can change. Well, they started changing the special effects, which I kind of like because it's almost like watching a whole new Star Trek, really. But But yeah, there's not much really to change for that show.
There was very little wasted airtime in that episode. We think it was all extremely germane to it. We think the only not relevant thing that happened was the lady yeoman coming in and trying to get him to eat salad or whatever. We even think the yeoman's appearance later in the episode when she made coffee, we think that one was important because that one straight up shows that the phaser is so versatile that you can heat up your coffee with it. But other than that, like when she comes in and tries to force him to eat a salad or whatever earlier, we're like, okay, wait a second. This is the only thing that doesn't fit in the episode. What's going on?
Being forced to eat healthy.
Well, and then at some point after she leaves, Jin complains about having a female yeoman, and immediately our mind goes to the Ferengi females.
Yeah, well, the whole sexism thing was pretty big in the 60s. Like, remember when in the cage where Captain Pike had referred to number one and how he said, "I'm not used to having women on a bridge."
Yeah. That was very controversial back then.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of controversial things about Star Trek at the time. It's like,
Well, I think even
one
at that
episode.
time,
One episode was banned from the South for quite a long time because of the Plato's Children.
Yeah.
All about a kiss that wasn't really a kiss, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think going back to that Pike thing, because I think right afterwards, he even apologizes to number one and says, like something to the effect of, present company excluded. So, it's kind of interesting because, I mean, the original series is kind of, of that time in very many respects, especially with the female characters often having to wear, the skirt style uniforms, even though I think number one in the cage, actually I even think the yeoman in that one also, they're not wearing skirts, they're just wearing, versions of the regular uniforms that they have available, which is kind of interesting to me.
Big hair too. Big hair.
Very, very popular in the 60s.
I think the episode intrigued me so much about what happens to Bailey afterwards that I think, like, I've always thought like it would be cool to find out more about what happens with him, but I don't know how that would be depicted or whatever. That's just like
it would be a little difficult to transfer over.
Yeah.
The adventures of journeying around the universe with a functionally omnipotent overseer of some mile-wide super ship. Yeah.
Would you like to see the first? Would you like to see the first Federation return? And do you have any idea why they might not return?
Yeah, it would be kind of it would be kind of interesting if they went into more detail about some of these old empires and stuff like that, or First Federation, in more detail. But I guess they got YouTube where they do a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, we'd like to see an expansion of. We'd like to see a lot of that stuff come back in the modern series, and we think the First Federation's a great example because it ships a mile wide, apparently very powerful. That would be really cool when compared to other power players.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, it's just like it's called the First Federation, but we never really, see anybody else other than Baylock, and we get this impression that he's on a mile-long spaceship just by himself, and I'm like, what is this First Federation? Even it might be covered in some books, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it would be worth exploring, at least if he either is alone or if there's other ones, or what is Baylock really, I think.
Yeah, I think there is a YouTube thing where they actually go through the history, the planet history, or the whole galaxy history of Star Trek.
There's
I
some
should
more
probably
in there.
check it out again.
Like knowing how sort of species and races and organizations and stuff have been portrayed in Star Trek, maybe it could have been cool if if there had been like a First Federation logo, perhaps.
Yeah. Instead of just a ball with blobs on it.
Yeah,
I
I think
in
it was pretty cool, pretty inventive for the time.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think there is kind of a in the Star Trek Star Charts book. There's like a sort of a I don't know what you want to call it, insignia for it that I think could be updated, but I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Did not know.
I think watching as a kid, because I really liked like action stuff and was like sort of more. I was like this is really intense with the reaction shots.
Yeah.
To Baylock's countdown and everything like that, and
Yeah.
I don't know whether the episode like necessitates like so many reaction shots from the crew, the bridge crew. It's well, I've recently rewatched the first season of the animated series, and to me, like that, it seems very similar to Beyond the Farthest Star. It's a little bit like that. The first episode of the animated series.
We were saying before the start, we were actually surprised at how loud because this is our first time going back to TOS in over 25 years. We were surprised at how loud everything was, how very broken up the music was. So it'd go to the bridge, and Captain Kirk has his own little theme song or music in the background, mood music whenever the camera's on him. But then it'll turn to the screen with the spinning cube and you have like really loud, janky music or whatever. And then it'll go to Bailey, and then everything will get all quiet or whatever. And all of this music will be spliced in like 2 or 3 second intervals or whatever. And we're like, wow, they've it's a lot smoother now, and there's always the beeping and the whirring in the background. And we've noticed in the modern series there's a lot less of that, even in contemporary eras like Discovery. You'll hear Discovery making a beep and a woo every now and then, but it's not constantly beeping and blaring at you.
Mm-hmm. Like thinking about Discovery, like I know some people like critique a particular episode from the second season of Discovery where like it dips into the backstory basically of Arium, a bridge crew member. But grand scheme of Discovery, like you don't see or find out much about her apart from that in that single episode where she's killed off.
The why should we actually care about this person episode?
Yeah, so like I was like, just now I'm thinking, is that a little bit similar to maybe Bailey, where you haven't been like introduced to him before, you can see him ever again.
Yeah, we think the same thing. Yeah, Bailey.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go on.
No, I think that's just like a trope where it's like suddenly like some background character gets like a whole hell of a lot of backstory, and you're like, oh, this is suspicious. Something's going to happen. Something not
flags
good's
all
going
over
to
the
happen.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect end to his character arc. On the other hand, for him to go off to the First Federation ship, and I can't really think how they could have done his character like that, and then, well, I guess they would have had like them visit the First Federation ship in Baylock, but not have an exchange of personnel. So they could have done it that way, I guess.
We think we could have used the scene with the yeoman coming in and trying to force feed Kirk salad, and we think that could have instead been like a dialogue bit with Bailey or whatever and McCoy, where Bailey's talking about why he joined Starfleet or whatever, and then that could have led into him being excited to volunteer for the first Federation ship. You know, maybe him being like, you know, I joined Starfleet so I could explore new worlds and not get blown up by a giant, you know, alien ship or whatever.
I've been wondering, do you prefer to watch the original series with the original effects or with the remastered effects?
We have not seen it with the original effects in 25 plus years. The remaster seems good to us with that in mind, but, you know, memory is a flawed thing.
Well, I'm sort of a purist, so I still have unremastered VHS tapes. So one of these days I got to crack them out again once I find my old VHS player.
The old VHS tapes.
Yeah.
I think I got some VHS tapes in my storage over there somewhere. Buried behind 12,000 comic books.
There you go.
Nice.
I'm not going to dig them out. But, yeah, I used to tape all my favorite shows, including Star Trek and everything. DVDs are so much easier.
Yeah, I don't regret buying little box sets of all the series and, you know, being able to put them on one shelf, because back in the day you had like all the VHS tapes of the original series and the Next Generation, or even Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Those, I mean, I can only imagine how people who had more of a collection than I do were able to manage everything.
Yeah,
The real estate
I had
space
that.
on it would be horrendous.
Well, I did it a little differently because I had 2 VHS machines and a beta machine, and I would tape the show, then I'll come home and watch it and edit out to commercials.
As you do.
And if you edit out the commercials, you can get 8 episodes on one 6-hour tape.
Mhm.
So that helps save space, but I ended up with more VHS tapes and beta tapes than you could imagine.
I think I might be one of the only people left that was there that has Enterprise VHS tapes, because I had to go in and manually record Star Trek Enterprise on my VCR when I was a kid, and I still have the tapes. So I don't know if it's not going to be worth anything. It's VHS tapes, but, you know,
Right.
it's a novelty, I guess, so I should be happy with that.
Somebody somewhere might pay you for them.
Yeah, maybe. I'll make some copies sometime.
Yeah, 20 years from now, they'll become nostalgic, you know, and someone will spend hundreds of dollars for them.
Yeah.
Just so they can have the commercials included.
Yeah, I mean, I did my best to edit them out. I don't know if I was really good, but we'll see.
Yeah, it was pretty easy because I kind of noticed that after the theme, they'll go to commercial, and then they'll keep going to commercials. And then I can't remember. I think it was 20 minutes, and then it'll go to 15, and then 10 or something like that. So they all had a set time when they were, no matter what show, when the commercials would come on. So I pretty much was ready for the commercials. Let's face it, I did this for Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5, and Space Above and Beyond, and I got to the point where I knew what I was doing.
That's very good.
And I remembered, Philip, you were talking about, like, or I think it was yourself. Someone mentioned earlier, you know, seeing Baylock at the end of the end credits, like 3 seasons after.
Well,
And
his alien version in the end credits.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was really cool, like seeing like there was a cosplay basically done of that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, I've seen the same thing.
But yeah,
And like that, obviously, like I think that alien sort of version of Baylock was strange looking. Do you think like the other version of Baylock was sort of suitably strange enough?
We liked it.
It's kind of interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, that guy who played him, he played in a couple other Star Treks, didn't he?
He's
Yeah, that
probably
was it.
one of the only actors that's been in pretty much every era of Star Trek, I think, at this point.
Even been in Strange New Worlds, hasn't he?
Yep.
Oh, just a moment.
And I think he played a Ferengi in one of the episodes of Enterprise, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Classic.
and then
So-
Discovery played in Orion.
Actually, no, I think he was in two things of this era that's been under Kurtzman, because he did that, and then he played a character with on Strange New Worlds where he was sort of it was like a medical unit or something, if I remember correctly. They're fighting the Klingons.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's probably one of the only ones that's been in since the start, which is kind of fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So, how many stars out of 5 would you rate this episode?
4.5 at least. It's just a solid episode. There's very little wasted airtime. It gets to the point. It establishes what Starfleet's supposed to act like, how things go on the bridge, the chain of command. We think this was really good. We think this one stands up with a lot of the modern show episodes. Just super easy, barely inconvenience. We were watching the whole time. We were very into it.
I guess I can agree with the 4.5. Probably give it a 5 just because it's still a part of that, era of the original series where everything's still kind of quality. So I'll go ahead and give it a 5.
I'll give it a 5. It was there were some really bad Star Treks, like the hippie one and stuff. But this is one of the excellent ones. That,
Yeah. It holds up. Even looking back, it holds up in the modern day.
Yeah.
I'd probably rate it a 4.
No.
Really?
I think it, like you were saying, I think it holds up, but I think there are other episodes of Star Trek that I would really enjoy slightly more at the same time.
We suppose there are episodes of Star Trek that just blow you out of your seat, and that we suppose, we see where you're going there. This one didn't blow us out of our seat. It was just a solid, good Star Trek episode.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's definitely not Way to Eden or Spock's Brain, so I give it that.
Yeah, there was probably a couple of them just totally blew my brains out when I was a kid when I first watched them, but I've seen them so many times it's kind of hard to remember exactly how you felt in those old days.
It all muddles together at this point, yeah.
Well, we hope our viewers, have enjoyed this review. If you have, please click the like and subscribe buttons. Check you later.
Good night.
Bye.